Hey, and welcome to Board with Life News for July 5th. Today I'm going to talk about Imhotep the Duel, Keyflow, Terraforming Mars the Colonies, Sun Moon, and the Kickstarter for edible games. Let's get to it. Imhotep the Duel will be coming out in the Cosmos two-player line of games, a very well-regarded line of games. And this is designed by Phil Walker-Harding, who designed Imhotep that came out 2 years ago. This is going to obviously be kind of a two-player rendition of that game. In the game, you play as either Nefertiti or Akhenaten. And you are unloading tiles from boats as well as trying to build 4 monuments of your own, like each one of you is building 4 monuments separately. It looks like the game is going to be tile-based instead of the cube blocks that were in Imhotep. So you're not going to be actually stacking blocks. You might be stacking tiles. I don't know, but it's going to be tiles. Keyflow is coming out from R&D Games. This is a card game based on Keyflower, a game that I am very, very fond of, that came out a decent while ago. In Keyflow, you're going to be players building communities alongside a river, and it's taking some of the mechanics from Keyflower, including the fact that you can send workers to either your own community or your own village, or you can send them to other players' villages in order to get advantages off of the things that they've built. It has a SN release set. Terraforming Mars, the Colonies, is going to be the 4th expansion for Terraforming Mars. In this, you're going to be building space stations both into the void and onto the moons of other planets. Terraforming Mars is a game that I thought the base game had insane amount of content as it was, to the point where it's too much for me to even be particularly interested in playing it. So now that it has 4 expansions, it's got a ton more. Obviously, it's got a very devout following. It's number 4 on the BGG rankings currently and has been for quite a while. So no end in sight to expansions being released for this game. This one is set to come out in October. Sun Moon has been announced by Pearl Games. This is going to be a new game by Sébastien Dujardin, very famed designer of Troyes, and he did Deus, and it's been 4 years since Deus came out, which is kind of crazy. That feels like it was just yesterday, and that was his last published design, so exciting to see new stuff from him. In this, it says it's going to be a little bit simpler than some of his other designs. Basically, there's a planet that's fallen out of rotation or whatever, so one side's always in daylight, one side's always in darkness, and you're going to be delivering goods between the 2 different sides of the planet. Another thing that's exciting about this game is it's got art by Vincent Dutrait, who is my favorite board game artist. Always exciting to see him doing stuff, so this seems like a great team-up between him and Sébastien Dujardin, who is a very, very good designer. So yeah, it's set to come out at SN this year. This week's Kickstarter is for edible games. This is an interesting thing. It's a cookbook with recipes and rules for 12 unique games that you can bake or cook and then make games out of them, which is really interesting. And I'm always interested at kind of weird implementations of kind of how games can be explored and how that space can expand past kind of what we think of as literally in the box. So this is exciting. It's got a bunch of different games ranging from kids games to help them eat vegetables to a game where it's set in World War II and you're eating pastries. So yeah, wide range of games. And it is $60 for the hardback edition. All right, that's the news for this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Make sure you follow me on social media. I'm at Chris Bryan Games on Instagram and Twitter. And make sure you check out my Patreon, linked in the description below. This week's question comes from @Danny and Derek. And they ask, how do you feel about con season as a designer versus just being a gamer board game enthusiast? So yeah, I wear a bunch of hats for con season. I have game design work that I have to do, be that meeting with publishers, pitching to publishers, playtesting games, working with co-designers, all that kind of stuff. I do the media side of it where I'm looking for new games, I'm checking stuff out, all that kind of stuff. I'm not nearly as heavy into that side, obviously, because I'm not a reviewer. I'm not trying to get review copies. I'm not trying to get all that stuff, but just being aware of what's going on. And then I also am a fan of board games, and I just want to play board games and see the new board games and buy the new board games and, why you go to cons. So one really good side effect of this is that conventions are tax write-offs for me, which is great because it's work. It's a thing that I have to do, so I can write off my mileage and my hotel bill and half of my food and things like that, which is definitely a perk because I go to 6 to 8 conventions a year, and that gets very, very expensive, having to travel to almost all of them. I certainly feel like I need to be doing work at conventions. I've gone to one where I was like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to have fun. And I felt guilty the whole time, and I felt like it was not a good use of my time or money. So that kind of sucks that like I can't just wholly enjoy a thing. I feel like I need to be working. Ultimately, I want to just be playing games, because as much as I like designing games, as much as I love doing that, when I'm there and it's just the excitement and I see all my friends and stuff like that, I don't want to go like, I got to go to a meeting, because that's going to a meeting. As much as I want to go to the meeting, I don't want to go as much as I want to just play games. But conventions are also incredibly productive and energizing for me, where I get a ton of work done working with publishers that I've already signed with, pitching games to new publishers, playtesting games, getting new ideas, and I always leave them super energized and excited and eager to get back to working on games. So that's a really nice side effect of it as well. I've kind of cut it to about 50-50, where I spend about half of my, not necessarily time, but half of my energy focused on, you know, the work side of it, playtesting, pitching, stuff like that. I always want to have, I used to pitch a ton. Now I only pitch to a couple publishers each time, and I'm only doing a couple games. I'm not, you know, I don't have 15 meetings with publishers. I might have 2 or 3 meetings with publishers for pitches. And now that I have more games in the pipeline, there's a lot more meetings with publishers just to check in, see how stuff's going, do a little bit of development work, that kind of stuff. And then also playtesting. And then the other 50%, I'm just seeing the new stuff. I'm playing games. I'm hanging out with my friends that I get to see at conventions, stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely a lot, and I come home just beyond exhausted, like everybody does from conventions. But I also come home super ready to like jump back in and get more work done. So great question. Thanks for it, and I'll see you next week.